So again, there's a lot of economic things going on, and then you've got the thing of if you use that terra preta, is that organic friendly?
It is actually it's completely non-toxic, and it is organic. Yeah, it's organic. It's been used in ancient times by the Indians of South America. But I mean, now obviously there is an organic boom. In fact, producers are having trouble keeping up with the demand right now. But obviously, it needs to be improved. There's a lot of improvement that needs to be made. So I'd hope to see a time when we could actually have terra preta organic farms rotating, and maybe that's the solution to our problems. And that would actually solve the problem without resorting to genetically modified food. Now, if it can do that, if it can give you all the proposed benefits of genetic modification without all the controversy, then I don't see how anyone can disagree with that.
Well, there's even better solution. Is we go and colonize the planet.
Of course, yes. Well, I'd be in favour of that. Yeah, lovely.
It's again, that's another thing that I think is vastly lacking at the moment. Is we don't have people advocating for the space program anymore. I think it's a great shame that public interest has waned in this.
Yeah.
But hopefully, maybe.
Well, I hope we do go and explore other planets, definitely. Now, I want to bring up another subject based on another video you mentioned, and this is kind of related because I think this is related to agriculture very, very much in a way that I'll explain, and that is you made a video called "The Free Energy Conspiracy." It had I think that was its title.
Yeah.
Now, in that you mentioned that you don't think there's I don't know if you believe there's such a thing as free energy, but if you do, there's no attempt to cover it up. If such a technology potentially exists, it hasn't been found, there's no way to cover it up. Do you really think that?
Yeah, I really do think because there's no. Again, if you
put the sound up again, Ollie. Sorry, you keep drifting out. I don't know.
Yeah, sorry. Yeah,
okay.
Sorry. Yeah, I'm holding my microphone,
no.
So it wanders.
Okay.
It's the. Oh, sorry, I've lost my thought then. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Free energy. The problem is, energy itself. If you create a free energy, let's say you actually do it. Let's say you create a device that can produce free energy.
Yeah.
What is feeding to create that energy? Because energy can't be created, and at the same time, energy can't be destroyed. It can only lose its
thermodynamics, entropy, conservation of energy. Yeah, it's some of the oldest physical laws in the book. I know.
Exactly. So a lot of back when I made that video, people kept on. One of the things beforehand was people kept on sending me these really dodgy devices made by this guy somewhere in Utah that was this look at this device has been going on for days and yet it's got a plug in the wall socket connected to it.
Well.
So it's one of these things where let's say you could actually do it, then you've got to build the device, you then got to house the device, you've then got to maintain the device, you've got to hire the people to maintain the device, you've probably got to hire catering staff, security staff, building staff, you've probably got to pay for parts to replace when it breaks down. By no means is energy, let's say you do create a free energy device, is it going
so that's in a sense
cheaper?
Yeah, that's like what wind power is essentially, because we have wind power is essentially free energy, but it's inefficient in the sense that there's a lot of maintenance involved in keeping wind power going. It's difficult because it costs a lot of money to keep these turbines running, things like that. But I mean, it all depends on the mechanism, Ollie, because I mean, there are some of these devices, whether you think they're real or not, are suggesting these are small devices with no moving parts, which operate very differently to some of the others. For instance, there's all kinds of complicated machines, I know, but so maybe extremely cheap or micro cost energy is probably a better word than free. However, and I know going on to the laws of physics and things like that, I mean, you should know about 0 point energy.
Yeah, I've heard of it.
Sorry, can you speak up again?
Yeah, I'm aware of it. So I sort of understand it. Like I say, I'm by no means an expert on it.
But basically, this wouldn't necessarily break all those laws because the 0 point field is enormously powerful. I mean, enormously powerful. There's an enormous amount of energy in the zero-point field, which is basically what's in the very structure of the universe. Even if you reduce temperature to absolute zero, which is impossible, of course. But even if you did, that energy would still be there theoretically. If you did it theoretically, but according to physicists, you can't access that energy. There's no mechanism to tap into it. However, if someone did invent one, you said in your videos, if someone invented one, you said that there would not be a cover-up. You said that this person instead would become enormously successful, and we'd all have free energy.
Yeah.
So you think they'd get the Nobel Prize, and all the oil companies would be chucking away their oil and saying, let's go for this, let's develop this free energy?
Well, it wouldn't if anything, it would change, not anything like cars or anything like that immediately, but it would change, certainly how home energy to begin with. I think when you look at, sort of the advancements in, what's it called now? Nuclear, not nuclear. I'm having a mental blank at the moment. I can't remember what it
Solar.
is. No.
Nuclear fusion.
Nuclear. Yes, nuclear fusion. There's been lots of movements in the physics, because there's a difference between, and I think people misunderstand when we talk about scientifically possible and engineeringly possible, because we've got a lot of technology that is scientifically possible, but we don't have the engineering capacity to catch up to the scientific.
Yeah, that's been done here in Oxfordshire at the Centre for Fusion Energy in Culham.
Yeah, and a lot of the engineering know-how needs to catch up to the science.
Yeah.
And that is a lot of issues when it comes to to that type of energy. But I think that will be the big breakthrough when
fusion. I mean, in my view, I think, well, there's a lot of talk about free energy. Now, this was something that was actually being discussed quite for instance, you mentioned the space program. I mean, there was a lot of talk before the actual rocket started flying, long before Sputnik, about antigravitics, electrogravitics, about how very intense electromagnetic fields could actually alter gravitational fields. Of course, if you do that, then you have a space utopia, because the biggest problem with getting up into space right now is gravity. That's what these huge rockets are for, to overcome the Earth's gravitational field, so to get them up into orbit. But if you manage to have, for instance, anti-gravity, it becomes like driving a car. If you have free energy, the problem with the idea that well, it's okay because the guy would just get a Nobel Prize and all the energy companies would want to do it, and whichever energy company developed it first would be in the lead. I don't think so. I mean, it's not just about greed. It's not just about money. But of course, oil is a huge industry and people make a fortune off oil. And you can't exactly go up to the chairman of Royal Dutch Shell and say, sorry, your services are no longer required. And try making candles. You need oil to make candles. Shell candles. They smell lovely. They're beautiful colours. They won't stain your wallpaper. It wouldn't work. But I mean, I think at a higher level, it's political. In a world without an oil industry, firstly, the agriculture we talked about earlier, it's the problems are over. You can irrigate any piece of land you want, no matter how dry, no matter how barren. You could, by desalinating seawater and pumping it wherever you wanted for little or no cost. Do you see what I mean? You could, and in that situation, this would alleviate poverty to an enormous extent. We would have a complete overhaul of the entire world order. I imagine countries like India and China, who have huge populations and enormous resources, they would dominate the world. And a lot of the countries now in the West would actually be at a disadvantage. And that's just the start of it. I mean, there's so many issues. I don't have time to go into them all. But this is why I think there are some people who would not want that. There are certain people in power, in control. Maybe they're at the Bilderberg group meetings. This is what they talk about when they're not playing pinochle, whatever that is. But so maybe that's one of the things they talk about. Do you see what I mean? This is why. In order to say there wouldn't be a free energy cover, you need to integrate and understand the political implications of what would happen if this technology was released to the world.
But you've only got to look at the tech industry, and I wouldn't say that's it's exact well not the exact same model but different thing, but I think that would happen in the tech industry all the time. There's new technology, new software coming out that is constantly changing the game, constantly changing the field of how it's played. And again, it will be the same if a free energy device came along, or we achieved fission.
Mm.
It would it the country that develops it will jump leaps and heads abound of any other in the world, and it will again. You're right. It will absolutely change the world, and it will be a complete revolution, like particularly in terms of science and engineering, like we haven't seen. I think people say at the moment we're living in an age of constant uh, technological advancement. Technology has never advanced faster than in the past couple of years, and if that were to happen, I think it would be it would be doing gangbusters.
Mm.
There'd be all sorts of stuff coming out daily with new things, and again, it's hard to say what exactly would and would not change. You can make guesses and say that yeah, there would be you know, certainly the oil companies would lose out.
Yeah.
But then what's to stop them saying, okay, we're now going to change focus and we're now going to start making these devices. We're now going to make these devices ourselves and supply, electricity. Companies have done it before, and I'm pretty sure they'll do it again if that does happen.
Right. I've just stopped recording, Ollie. Let me just save that. We're doing well here, and I know we've. Let me just check that's the right one. I'll just save this. Oh, hang on.
Oh yes, did you get in touch with Sean?
I haven't yet. Let me just check. Yeah, it's this one here. I'll let me just do this, and I'll get. Oops, and I'll. Okay, one second. So this is paste here. We've got some good content here, Ollie. Check that's the right one. Right, here we go. Rename. Right, that's in the can. Okay. Now what we've been
Before we start again, let me just go.
Sure. No worries. No worries. You're back. Oh, lovely. Now I've got quite a lot of notes here, and there's lots of other issues I want to talk to you about. So we're not recording at the moment. All right. But I was hoping you're all right to go for like another. What's it? We get another quarter of an hour, 10 minutes, quarter of an hour in, and then we'll end by giving people links to your videos and everything. Your.
Yeah,
No worries. I mean, would you be all right to come back again for maybe a part 2?
Yeah, that sounds good. Oh, hang on a second. I'm getting
No
a phone
worries.
call.
That's okay. I'll hold.
Right,
No
sorry about
problem. No
that.
problem. I suppose I've got just a couple more things I want to say about the free energy issue, and then maybe we can bring up one more subject then we're going to have to leave it because we've been going now for. I've got how much have I got in the can now? I've got I can't really go more than an hour and a quarter because then it just gets too long. So that's
Yeah, well, I think the Skype call's about an hour and 15.
right. Yeah, so I've been recording for most of that. That's 32 minutes. That's 19. See, we've got quite a lot on already. We could. There's another subject I want to bring up, but you'd be welcome to come back for a part 2. Is that all right? Maybe in the new year you can come back for a part 2. Oh,
Yeah,
that'd be lovely. Bring you back again. Yeah. There's just one more issue I want to bring up. Okay, mate. So you okay to start? I'll just finish talking about free energy.
Yeah,
okay, and then we'll.
be.
It's going to be a long.
It's
It's going to be a long interview.
Yeah, I might have to dash a little bit on one point because that was the phone call was my friend. He's bringing around beer.
Oh, is he? Oh, right. Okay, we'll get you. Won't keep you any
Yeah.
longer than that. But I'll maybe come back for a part 2 because there's other issues I want to talk about. But there's one more subject. I'll just say another thing about free energy, and feel free to reply. And then there's one more subject I want your opinion on. All right, and then we'll call it a day. Okay.
Right.
Okay, here we go then. Now, I suppose now what is often said. I mean, I've been studying the skeptic point of view from this. There's a guy called Eric Krieg. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he's a big free energy skeptic from the United States. He says basically he said that these guys, these inventors, they can either do the science or they can do the business. They can't do both. And he says either they get the science right or they just sell the free energy. Would you maybe say if a big oil company decided to shift over to free energy, do you think that would be a worthwhile business model?
Yeah, definitely. Again, because it's no different now, but essentially they've got, where oil is, a limited commodity to them. There's only so much oil in the ground, and they spend so much on, getting it, pumping it out, and then looking for, new wells to tap. Then they've got a device that can essentially provide them with energy, and then they can, transport it wherever they want. Really, then.
Yeah,
But then there's a.
I think.
But then there's a point of they might become regional energy suppliers rather than global energy suppliers.
I think the problem with that is it is a bit like going up to the skipper on a sailing ship, attaching an anemometer to his mast and attaching that to a meter and charging him for the wind he uses. It's in economic terms, you can't actually sell free energy because if it's 0 point, if it comes from the 0 point field, and it's extract. I mean, the only cost would come in the method of extracting it. And if this is through some very simple device that could be built, say, for £80, and of course, as you know, when something is first invented, when a piece of engineering is first invented, the prototype usually costs about 1,000 times as much as the end product 10 years down the line. I mean, televisions were like, they cost millions of pounds to develop, and then you can pick one up now for 20 quid. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So in a sense, it would be. They would have to any company that wanted to switch from fossil fuels, which is a resource that, as you say, is limited. So the price is one of the reasons the price is high is to do with forecasts over peak oil and things like that, which cost money to extract. So you have to charge the end user. The consumer has to pay for it. If you're in the middle, you make a lot of money off it. You have a nice lifestyle. If you are going into politics, if you are in political terms, you have a source of energy which gives you an enormous amount of control over society. If you were to take that away, I mean, you'd have to downsize, to put it mildly. This, I think, is where the problem lies. You can't. It would so fundamentally change everything. I mean, you've painted a very rosy picture of what the future would be like, and I believe the future can be like that. But I think there are forces who may not have a rosy vision for the future of the world, and they are concerned about the political implications. They're not, obviously, in terms of human well-being. If your concern is human well-being alone, which I'm sure yours is, like it is mine, then yeah, go for free energy. Let's just all have free energy. But I think the powers that shouldn't be in this world have a very different outlook on life.
Can I ask you a quick question? What do you mean by free energy? Can you just define it?
It is an energy source that does not come through any means, which means, for instance, it costs money to the actual ingredient into the energy actually costs money. So in a sense, solar power is free energy in a way. So is wind power, as I've explained. But I think in practical terms, what I mean is something that is an esoteric kind of system by which a vast amount of energy can be extracted for little or no cost. So, for instance, solar and wind power cannot extract vast amounts of energy. It can't be used to power civilization, as the nuclear power lobby have quite rightly said, even if you disagree with them, as I do.
Hmm. But even then, as I said at the beginning of this conversation, even if you do build one, you've then got to build the machine, you've got to maintain it. There's probably lots of staff involved in it, maintenance workers, shift workers to make sure, it doesn't explode. There's it's not going to be free. So I often find it when people say, "Oh, free energy." It's not going to be free. It'll be free
Well,
energy
yeah,
with a
it
cost.
depends on the mechanism. As I said, I mean, this is the thing about fusion energy, because I actually went to visit the Culham Centre for Fusion Energy. You can do a tour there, it doesn't cost anything. You just register and go along. And I said to them, well, if you get a commercial power plant online, because they're building an experimental power station in France right now, which is hopefully going to be demonstrate exactly what they can do. I said, well, how much will electricity actually cost if it comes from that this power station? And they said it'll probably be about 80% of what you're paying right now. And so this actually was a bit of a surprise to me. I thought they were going to say, oh, it's going to cost next to nothing, because the energy all comes from deuterium, and there's millions of tons of deuterium in water, and which is true. I mean, the deuterium's very plentiful. It's basically an isotope of hydrogen. But the fact of the matter is, these fusion reactors, these tokamaks, are exactly what you've described. They are complicated, extremely complicated machines. And as you said before, the actual engineering challenges in getting them to work haven't been overcome yet. So in the case of nuclear fusion power, you'd be absolutely right. However, there are much simpler and easier ways of getting free energy. Have you heard of cold fusion, the Pons and Fleischmann experiment?
Yes.
Now, I know what you're going to say. Yeah, they said it didn't work. Well, that's not true. I think it did work. But that, in a sense, is essentially a piece of schoolboy chemistry. Basically, it's electrolysis. That if you could build a power station based on that, it would cost the running costs would be far lower. And there are even some of these machines, even like you can build them for £80. You could put one in your house. It's the size of a cupboard, and it would give you a house free unlimited energy. These things have no moving parts, and the maintenance would be incredibly low. That's a completely different matter in terms of economics and engineering and practicalities.
But it's then how much can that then generate? Is it practical then to build one of
Well, I
those?
mean, yeah, I mean, if it's like, yeah, it's.
If you've got to build a power plant that's the size of a block of flats, then or
You're good quiet again, Ollie. Sorry.
then even if you've got to build something even bigger than that, then that's going to be huge.
Yeah.
So it's not always. I don't think everything's not always as simple as it first. I think is first made.
Well, obviously, yeah. I mean, if it's something enormous which costs hundreds of pounds in terms of constant maintenance, it has, and it only produces 10 kilowatts of energy, and it can just fuel a house, and that's useless. I mean, the problem with fusion at the moment is that's the stage they're at. They're at the stage where they can produce a few kilowatts of energy at the cost of billions of funds, costs and development costs. But if there was a way around it, I mean, and from what I gather, there are people who have found ways around it. This is what cold fusion is. I mean, Martin Fleischmann, before he died, he described it as they were creating fusion. He described it as effortless. They were actually doing a chemistry experiment using deuterium, and they got what was known as an anomalous heat effect. And contrary to popular belief, they didn't discover this. They rediscovered something that had first been observed in 1922. They just discovered it independently, called the anomalous heat effect. And there was a lot of, I don't know if it was a long time ago now, it was 1989 this all kicked off. And I was I was just a little kid at the time, and I didn't really understand what it was all about. But it basically it was all over the news. We found we found energy. We could run something off deuterium. It would cost next to nothing, because it's just basically a test tube with two palladium cathodes inserted into the deuterium in the test tube. And this is the sort of thing, like I say, this is the sort of thing you do in your school chemistry class. very similar to that. You have to worry about like gamma neutron radiation from it, because it's this is one of the reasons they thought they had fusion, because they were picking up neutron emissions, which you get from a nuclear fusion reaction. You see what I mean? Now that would change everything. If you could have something that a simple device like that could produce all this heat, because once you have the heat, it doesn't matter how it's produced. You can rig it up to you can run it through a boiler. You can run the boiler through a dynamo. You can through a turbine or something, and attach the turbine to a dynamo. You've got power. You see what I mean? So that would change everything, though, Ollie, wouldn't it? I mean, and there's a connection here. I mean, there's people like guys like John Hutchison, who's, I don't know if you've heard of him. I'm going slightly aside here, but John Hutchison has almost effortlessly, using electromagnetic interference fields, released massive amounts of energy.
Yeah, again, again, when you come to sort of energy, I think there is a lot of potential with when it does come to fusion. And again, there are lots of different competing theories and devices. And again, as we've already discussed, there's lots of engineering limitations that stop a lot of these things from happening.
But theoretically, you don't think there'd be any potential for a cover-up if a cheap form of energy production would be discovered of this kind?
Oh no! Again, if it's made and it's done, then look at it go. As you've already said, they're building the test model in France.
Yeah.
So again, it's something that when it happens will undoubtedly make huge changes in the world. Again, not all of them may be good. There will be a lot of unintended side effects. I think you'll see a lot of massive rise of unemployment in the Middle East, because now they'll be having a lot of oil, and oil based power plants won't need oil potentially.
Well, no. Well, they could also work on the new irrigation farms in the middle of the Saudi Arabian desert, couldn't they?
Yeah, exactly. There's lots of it's sort of playing Methuselah. You don't know what's going to happen. You can make predictions about it, but you'll never be 100% accurate as well.
But I know governments do like to think ahead. I mean, they employ think tanks involving prospective things, prospecting in terms of economic prospects, psychological think tanks to work out exactly how they think people are going to react to the introduction of a new technology or the discovery of something new. I mean, we're almost out of time now, Ollie, unfortunately. There's so much more I want to talk to you about, and I hope you will come back onto this program. I really do. But before we go, I just want to say that the governments are actually, they're thinking the very same thoughts that I am. Do you know what I mean? And you are. They're not just going around blindly thinking, well, how much is the next? Yeah. What about next year's budget? Are we going to balance the books? Can we stop austerity? Things like that. How can we sort of like, will this business be productive in the next couple of weeks? Will we get an immediate payoff? No, they're thinking ahead, long term.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, David Cameron's a person like you and me.
God, I hope not.
It's governments. I would generally hate to be an MP.
Yeah, me too.
I think there would be absolutely undoubtable amounts of pressure based on you if you were an MP. But it would be. I think running a country is a lot more complicated. I think than a lot of people give credence to it and think that running a country is easy. I don't think it is really.
Maybe not. No. Well, there's an awful lot. There's an awful lot more I can talk to you about. I've got a whole list of points here I wanted to bring up with you, and I do hope you'll come back, because in maybe the new year we can do a part 2 to this, because. And you'll have some videos by then, no doubt. So we can maybe talk about those as well, because I've underestimated the amount of material I had. But it's been lovely talking to you. Yes, great. Yeah, we've obviously we're not going to agree, but I do hope there may be some people out there who are maybe uncertain, who've been watching your videos or my videos, who have been kind of wavering over these various issues we talk about. And I do hope we've brought you some clarity if you are listening. So. Ollie,
or if not, just disagree.
Yeah, we'll just troll us like some of the others do, But I mean, I agree with you. Actually, I should point out actually that one thing I do agree with you on. I know your brother got into trouble through people on my side of the debate really who've behaved in an appalling manner. There's no doubt about it. Miles, I mean, I actually stuck up for Miles Power when he had some of his videos taken down, because there were some people who disagreed with him, as I do, but they were attacking him personally, and they were putting in false copyright complaints and things like that. So, I mean, I'm very opposed to that sort of thing. I really am. I think there should be a free and open debate. And if you disagree with someone, don't attack them. Don't do this sort of thing. The internet's too full of that. I mean, it comes from both sides. I mean, unfortunately, from the skeptic side and from our side as well. So, Ollie, how can people find out about your YouTube videos? How do they find them on the internet?
Well, they can go into YouTube and they can look up Bowler Hatman without the W, or Bowler Hatman.
Bolerhatman. That's the channel, ladies and gentlemen, and the links are in the show notes, and they're in the notice for this program. So
I hope to see you all very soon.
Oh, definitely, yes. All right. So, Ollie, Bowler Hatman, thank you very much for being a guest on the HPANWO show on HPANWO Radio.
Thank you very much for having me, Ben.
Brilliant. That's great. Nice one, Ollie. We've got some good material there.
Thank you.
What I'll do is I'll just it's this one here, I think. Let me just save this. Hang on. 1 moment. Yep, that's it right now. It's this one. I'm just gonna let me copy and paste. Right. Rename. Call that BHM 5. We've got 5 segments. Well, a lot of the segments were caused because of the breakdown of the Skype.
Oh well, technical difficulties.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. Oh well, that's it.